Thank you, Madam Chair, and it's a pleasure to follow the Honourable Lady. I thank her for bringing her insight and expertise into this debate, and I also want to thank the Honourable Member for Oxford West and Abingdon for bringing this important debate forward. Having somewhere to call home, somewhere to sleep, somewhere where we can feel safe, is the very least that each of us should hope to secure in our lives. The scourge of rough sleeping is something which we all have a duty to work together to eradicate. And as has been said, there has been good progress on this issue, and the pandemic prompted a renewed focus on this. But of course, there is always more to be done. A sensible partnership approach between the third sector, local authorities and the Scottish Government meant a move away from night shelter provision and the Ending Homelessness Together action plan, which has benefited from £50 million of additional funding. In Scotland, rough sleeping is at a record low, and frontline teams offering support to those who may need it, particularly during the pandemic, have done a sterling job. The priority of keeping people safe and housing those with no settled home in emergency accommodation was a public health imperative during the pandemic, and that's why the Scottish Government awarded £1.5 million to third sector organisations to assist them in their work to secure such accommodation for this emergency provision. However, we must continue this as we move through recovery, as the Honourable Member for Oxford West and Abingdon has indicated, as have others who have spoken today. And to that end, the Scottish Government has launched its 2040 Scottish Government Housing to 2040 strategy, which is a renewed commitment to ending rough sleeping and homelessness for good. The emphasis must be on prevention of rough sleeping, and this means there has to be the necessary support structures in place to support people in their homes. That means working with third sector organisations, landlords, local authorities and a range of other services to support those at risk of homelessness for whatever reason. Now, I appreciate that some of those, and it's been mentioned earlier today in the debate, some of those who are at risk of homelessness and who currently sleep rough may have complex needs and may require a lot of support in a range of ways. And as a society, we have to be prepared to help them through that. But all of this work is taking place against a much more challenging background. And it would be remiss of me if I didn't mention the policy of no recourse to public funds, which leaves some people with no access to basic essential services, putting those affected at real risk of housing insecurity and homelessness. And we cannot underestimate the impact that removing the £20 universal credit uplift will have on households who are already struggling, who are already teetering on the financial edge. Now, the Scottish Child Payment is the Scottish Government's attempts to target support for the most financially challenged. But this will be wiped out by this universal credit uplift being abolished, and I urge the Minister to use his influence and his good offices to influence and encourage the United Kingdom Government to think again on that policy. The freeze on local housing allowance rates from April will push people further into poverty and increase the risk of homelessness for many. The Scottish Government's discretionary housing payment spend is around £82 million for 2021-22, which is an important investment used by councils to safeguard tenancies and prevent homelessness. Alongside that, the much-hated bedroom tax has been fully mitigated in Scotland, helping 70,000 households to sustain their tenancies. But of course, challenges remain. And I would hope that best practice will be shared across the UK as each part of the UK works to eliminate this social scourge, this social blight. It doesn't matter where it's working. Whatever works is what matters, and we should all be sharing the best practices that we are using to tackle this. So progress on rough sleeping and homelessness has been made, and I'm sure we all welcome the renewed focus on this which the pandemic prompted. But we must look at the fabric of our society and how we build a more inclusive society so that we can envisage a time when homelessness and rough sleeping become part of our past. Because at its heart, Fundamentally, tackling rough sleeping and homelessness is about the kind of society we want to build. If tackling this issue is about anything, it is about asking ourselves, what kind of country do we want to live in? And to deal with it requires concerted effort around supporting tenancies, the welfare system, supporting families who are struggling through these times in the range of ways that I've indicated. Homelessness and rough sleepers in our communities and on our streets is not something with which we can ever be comfortable. We must all work together to address it and ensure that it is no longer part of our society and envisage a future where it doesn't happen. Rough sleepers and homelessness is hard evidence, if we need it. It's hard evidence that our support systems have failed or are inadequate. So we must have systems that are comprehensive and flexible to assist those most at risk. Supporting people in their tenancies allows them to go on to live full and productive lives, to contribute to their community, and we will all be better off for that. And I look forward to hearing the Minister's response on the progress, the further progress that we can make across cooperation, across the United Kingdom, to work together to solve this.